Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the weird internet connection. Welcome to Gen Taub Live. It is Friday, and I cannot wait to introduce you to my friend Dean Obeidallah. You may know him from his Sirius XM show, radio show, or from Nerd Avengers. He will be joining us at 9 a.m. But first, I need to talk with you about what a nightmare it is that Elon Musk is getting a briefing from the Pentagon, my friends, about a planned war with China. And let me just say, this is a top secret briefing, and we're not planning to go to war with China, but this is obviously, apparently, something that we need to have in place in the event there is hostility between us and other adversarial nations. It makes no sense, however, that Elon Musk, a private citizen who has this special advisory role to the president, would be, and a man who has not gone through security clearances himself, would be getting a briefing at the Pentagon. And we know this story because the New York Times broke it last night. The Wall Street Journal has confirmed it. And yet Donald Trump is still denying the reality of what insiders have said is happening. Now, I want to share with you first a reaction to how crazy this is. We have the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, from a very successful, prosperous state. You know, he was also on the VP ticket. He was speaking with Rachel Maddow last night when this news broke. Let me play that for you right now.
I don't know how to convey, I don't possess the language ability to convey how far out of the norm this is. Like nothing that people listening, like, look, this is those of us who served, the background checks from the FBI, just to receive clearance as an artillery enlisted soldier was extensive to get that background. And then the level of information that you can get, or as a member of Congress, to be able to have access to this type of information. These are closely guarded secrets because our national and our global defense depends upon them. And once again, we have this, I don't know, the character, the world's richest man with the world's most fragile ego. And I don't understand where the Republicans, where are Lindsey Grahams? Where are these people who know how this works to not be terrified of where this is at? And again,
it's a problem. And I want to share with you, in case you actually missed the New York Times story about this briefing. So let me just pull this up for you because you deserve to see it. And it was a like five different bylines on this article. Okay, so let's share this. And here we go. So I think that you can see this well. This is a byline, an article written by Eric Schmidt, Eric Lipton, Julian Barnes, Ryan Math, and Maggie Haberman. And you know, we've talked about this before. When you put this many reporters on something, it means it was a big deal to hunt down and verify all the issues. Okay, so I'm going to read you. The Pentagon was scheduled on Friday to brief Elon Musk on the U.S. military's plan for any war that might break out with China, two officials said on Thursday. Another official said the briefing would be China focused without providing additional details. A fourth official confirmed Mr. Musk would be at the Pentagon on Friday, but offered no details. Hours after news of the planned meeting was published by the New York Times, Pentagon officials and President Trump denied that the session would be about military plans involving China. China will not even be mentioned or discussed, Mr. Trump said in a late night social media post. It was not clear if the briefing for Mr. Musk would go ahead as originally planned, but providing Mr. Musk access to some of the nation's most closely guarded military secrets would be a dramatic expansion of his already extensive role as an advisor to Mr. Trump and leader of his effort to slash spending and purge the government of people and policies they oppose. Now, I need to add, and then we will start talking about this more in this article. It would also bring into sharp relief the questions about Mr. Musk's conflicts of interest as he ranges widely across the federal bureaucracy while continuing to run businesses that are major government contractors. In this case, Mr. Musk, the billionaire chief executive of both SpaceX and Tesla, is a leading supplier to the Pentagon and has extensive financial interests in China. There we have it. They're not even hiding it, right? He wants access to this information so he can plan accordingly and perhaps even influence and try to bring on a war. If you've seen the film Citizen Kane, I think Elon Musk is William Randolph Hearst meets Charles Manson. I just think he is killing the United States. He is slashing our country apart. And he is a deranged, antisocial billionaire with some deep seated problem. If we could just give the man a sled that says Rosebud, maybe we could get him to go the fuck away. But I digress. If you didn't believe the New York Times reporting, the Wall Street Journal also verified this. And so they didn't just you'll see some news sources and they will, they'll do things like, I think you've seen this, they'll say, as reported in the New York Times. And you may think, oh, well, I guess that is a situation where they just want to give the New York Times credit. Well, that's true. But the reality is, if they didn't also verify it, they won't say it in their own article. And here we have the Wall Street Journal verifying this on their own reporting dime. We have two reporters who reported this out last night. Musk set to receive top secret briefing on U.S. war plans for China. And the subhead in this article written by Alexander Ward and Nancy Youssef says, the Trump advisor is expected to get a look at the Pentagon blueprint despite his company's financial stakes in China and defense contracts. Okay, I think you get the drift. Now we will maybe find out from people who leak to the press whether this really happened, despite Donald Trump's protestations to the contrary. We really can never believe anything Donald Trump has to say. Now, on the bright side, and before we get to Dean and to Crazy Town, or to Crazy Town and then Dean, Obeidallah, I want to remind you that yesterday, here we go, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders made some visits to Las Vegas and Tempe, Arizona. Today, they'll be in Greeley, Colorado, and Denver, and then returning back to Arizona to Tucson for Saturday. And why do I mention this? Because this is a huge attraction for people, their message and their presence. And I want to share with you an excerpt first from something Bernie had to say, Bernie Sanders from Vermont, as well as Representative Alexander Ocasio-Cortez from New York. Let's play Bernie.
If we were a poor country, I would come before you and I'd say, I'm sorry that you got to work 50 hours a week. I'm sorry that you really have to do dangerous and dirty work. I am sorry that you can't afford to send your kid to college. I'm sorry that the elementary school your kid goes to is inadequate, or that you can't afford childcare. But we're a poor country. We just can't afford that. We are not a poor country. There is no excuse in God's earth that people have to make a choice between food and the medicine they need to stay alive.
This is true. And, Bernie Sanders' message resonates with all kinds of people across the country and has since 2015. And I think that these messages, you could call them populist, you could call them humanist, or you could call them fight the F and oligarchy. We are a rich, highly developed, and sophisticated country. And with those assets, and with the people here, and with our foundation of democracy, we can really, really appreciate shared prosperity. It's what I dream of, and it's what we can have, and it's what makes us stronger and better and creates abundance and creativity and the possibility for human fulfillment. It's so central. And when you rob people of the economic or the financial resources to move forward, you rob them of their dreams, you rob them of their children's futures, you rob them of the ability to have children if they want them. And I just love everything he has to say. Now let's play a clip from AOC. Here we go.
Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security were promises that we as a people have made to each other about the kind of country we are and the kind of society we want to live in. And I don't know about you, Arizona, but I want to live in an America that guarantees health care to every person. I want to live in an America that has a living wage for every person. I want to live in America where you have free speech to express yourself and not be afraid of getting put on a list or deported. But these promises that we've made, they are not promises from politicians to the people, or they're not charity from billionaires to everyday Americans. They are promises we have made to each other. Neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, teacher to student, family member to family member. That we want to live in a society that is not depraved, not every person for themselves, but all of us standing together. This is the promise that we make to each other as Americans.
It's a social contract. It's a vision of where we want to go forward. Now, this morning I was listening to on Sirius XM, MSNBC, and I was listening to Joe and Mika talk about how successful this message is and how much the people, they gave an example, the Bernie bro and the Bernie supporters in 2015 when he was no longer in the general election, when Hillary Clinton got the nomination, that a lot of those voters went to Trump. And we can talk about all the reasons why that happened. Of course, a piece of it is sexism. Of course, a big piece of it was the Clinton legacy, from which she could not separate herself, even though she is not the same person as Bill Clinton. And a lot of it was, the huge number of working class white voters who identified more with the working class message that Bernie was putting forward, the not capitulating to the banks. And of course, I voted for Hillary Clinton. This is not a criticism of Clinton. I'm just describing. And what on Morning Joe, what they were talking about is this possibility that the message, if not the messengers, whether it's Bernie and AOC or the grassroots of the Democratic Party, trickling up to someone like Hakeem Jeffries, let's set aside Chuck Schumer for a moment, trickling up and saying, you know what, we need to be the party of the people. We need to be the party that rejects dictatorship, the party that embraces jobs, that embraces shared prosperity. And I agree with that. I don't agree with everything that they talked about today on the show, but I just want to make that point. It is critical. It's what we want. And I think if we reemphasize that, it's so easy to talk about this in the context of Donald Trump's current reign, this regime, because Donald Trump promised jobs. Donald Trump promised lower prices. Donald Trump promised prosperity for everybody. Donald Trump made these promises, and it's been the opposite. He promised peace. What have we had? We've had massive layoffs, and not just in the public sector, but a steel plant was just shuttered because the auto industry, being afraid of the tariffs, may not need those supplies. We have jobs lost. We have prices skyrocketing and them now embracing in the Trump regime recession. We have not peace, but war continuing in the Middle East and against Ukraine. And we have now apparently an oligarch, unaccountable, unelected, ketamine-addled, kleptocratic douchebag, Elon Musk, trying to use the apparatus of government to push up his stock price, to sell his cars, and also now to line up some kind of contracts so that he can fight some kind of war in China. I mean, this is insane. This is not what we voted for. It is not. And that can be the message. Now, I want to add this thing that I also heard on the show this morning. I think it's worth talking about, which is this. They also played a clip of my Senator Elise Slotkin, I guess, at a town hall, and people were saying, what are you going to do to fight for us? Why aren't you more like AOC and Bernie? And one thing I wish that she had done, which she didn't, she could have said, their message is great, and here's what I'm doing in my state. Instead, she said, well, those people have a lot of words, but what have they done? No, Elisa Slotkin, no, Senator. And in fact, I'm going to call her office or find a way to get in touch with her and say her message is wrong. You don't need to punch left. It's a big tent. Say, I love their message. They've got a great message. We can work together. I might say and do slightly different things in my state with my constituents. It is not okay to punch left, right? That doesn't make sense. And specifically, we want people who fight for us. So I voted for her, and I think I need to find a way to get access to that office to say, change your message. And I think that she's fighting for the same things they are. It's just about language. Now, before I get to Dean, and I think I'll do Crazy Town with Dean, I want to talk to you about something that my friend George Conway was not tweeting, but true socialing about last night, and also texting me and a friend. I'm in a little text group with him and a friend who's I will not mention because she still works in the corporate law world. And George was breaking it to us because I hadn't seen the headlines about how this major, one time respectable law firm, establishment firm, Paul Weiss, has not just bent the knee to Donald Trump, but fully prostrated itself on the ground so low that I expect clients to jump ship. And if I were a third year associate, and it was the spring of my third year of law school, that's the final year, and I had lined up an offer and I was supposed to start at Paul Weiss after the bar exam, I would be opening up my Rolodex. I guess we don't have those anymore. I would be doing whatever I could to find a different job. And I will explain why in a moment. And then if I had a summer associateship lined up as a 2L, I would also be looking for a different summer associateship. And let me tell you what happened with Paul Weiss. And this firm, let me just actually share with you, I think this would help, the True Social that Donald Trump put out to announce his victory. You know how Donald Trump has been directing attacks at universities and so on? Well, now he is directing attacks at law firms that he doesn't like, that were on the other side of any case that involved him. And so I'm going to share this True Social with you. And yes, I don't want an account. No, thank you. Okay, I think you can see this True Social. And it's like he's writing in the third person. This is from yesterday. Today, President Donald J. Trump agreed to withdraw his March 14th, 2025 executive order regarding the Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison LLP law firm, Paul Weiss, which has entered into the following agreement with the president. One, Paul, I mean, this, I have to read this to you because it is, my friends, it is it's so absolutely disturbing. Okay. Oh, here we go. Paul Weiss agrees that the bedrock principle of American justice is that it must be fair and nonpartisan for all. Our justice system is betrayed when it is misused to achieve political ends. Lawyers and law firms play a vital role in ensuring that we must live up to that standard as a nation, and so on and so on. And then, more platitudes. Lawyers abandon the profession's highest ideals when they engage in partisan decision making. What? Okay, two. Again, the law firm Paul Weiss affirms its unwavering commitment to these core ideals and principles and will not deny representation to clients, including in pro bono matters and in support of nonprofits because of the personal political views of individual lawyers. Guys, this is insane. You should be able to choose whatever clients you want. Three, the firm Paul Weiss will take on a wide range of pro bono matters that represent the full spectrum of political viewpoints of our society, whether conservative or liberal. Four, Paul Weiss affirms its commitment to merit-based hiring, promotion, and retention, and will not adopt, use, or pursue any DEI policies. As part of its commitment, it will engage experts to be mutually agreed upon within 14 days to conduct a comprehensive audit of all of its employment practices. Five, now this is the most crazy. This law firm, Paul Weiss, will dedicate the equivalent, listen guys, Paul Weiss will dedicate the equivalent of $40 million in pro bono legal services over the course of President Trump's term to support the administration's initiatives. Did you hear that? They were agreeing in order to get this executive order attacking them pulled aside. They're going to give $40 million in free legal services. Hours and hours and hours of dedication over the course of Trump's term to the Trump administration initiatives, including a variety of projects. And this is a statement from the White House, quote, the president is agreeing to this action in light of a meeting with Paul Weiss chairman, Brad Karp, during which Mr. Karp acknowledged the wrongdoing of former Paul Weiss partner, Mark Pomerantz, the grave dangers of weaponization, and the vital need to restore our system of justice. Remember, Mark Pomerantz is the attorney who worked with Alvin Bragg and investigated and began the investigation of the criminal case that ultimately resulted in Donald Trump's the jury trial and conviction on 34 felony counts and sentencing. Remember, he didn't get prison, but he is a convict. So he had to prostrate himself, Brad Karp, and say a colleague of his there was wrongdoing. This is ridiculous and fascist. And then let me read this last part. In response to the president's announcement, Paul Weiss chairman Brad Karp said, we are gratified that the president has agreed to withdraw the executive order concerning Paul Weiss. We look forward to an engaged and constructive relationship with the president and his administration. The backlash was swift. People are saying, and I can understand it, why would you ever hire this law firm if to represent you, to fight for your interests, if they cannot even fight for their own? And it is a really good question because I certainly wouldn't. And I want to share with you, Mark Elias on True Social shared that, that message I just read to you. And here's what Mark Elias said. It is a sad day. Remember Mark Elias worked at Perkins Coie and they were able to sue because there was an executive order against them. Elias hasn't been there in years, but that was a law firm that he worked for and represented the Democratic Party. It is a sad day for the legal industry. Paul Weiss didn't just bend a knee. It set a new standard for shameful capitulation. This is a stain on the firm, every one of its partners, and the entire legal profession. Deepak Gupta said, would you want to be represented by a law firm that can't even stand up for itself? A law firm that might sell you out to the federal government to save its own skin? And yeah, I mean, it kind of goes on and on from there. So, guys, what I want to do now is I want to see if my friend Dean has arrived yet. He should be here in any minute. I do want to prepare you for Dean's arrival and tell you about his work. Now, Dean, and he will obviously help you find out where to find him at the end of the show. But he has a Substack. It's called The Dean's Report by Dean Obeidallah, and Dean is also a user of Twitter still. He is on there. He's also on Truth Social, where you can find him. He started out, if you can believe it, as a lawyer. Yes, he did. And then he became a comedian. And now he is a brilliant pundit who is kind enough to include me on his show every other Thursday night on Sirius XM. I'm seeing people in the chat saying Dean is very intelligent. And Susan, thank you for sharing. Here we go. Dean's Substack. Okay, so Dean had me on the show last night, and I promised him that we would reprise much of what we spoke about last night, but, because I didn't give him any topics, I didn't warn him in advance, but of course there was breaking news after we spoke. So I am going to put Dean on the spot and see how he stands up to the scrutiny. And here we go. Hey, my friend, welcome to
Hello,
Gen
good
Talk
morning.
Live.
How
Good
are you?
morning,
Good morning.
sir.
Nice to have you on. It's interesting day already, huh?
Nice
You
to
can't
have me
sleep
on.
during Trump. You can't sleep
What?
during Trump if you want to pay attention to the news. You literally can't sleep. It's just
You look
nonstop
very
breaking
fresh.
news.
You look very fresh this
I
morning.
showered for this. Now I'm going to get
Oh my
dirty.
God.
I'm going to go to the gym after this and have to re-shower later. But no, I'm
I
happy
mean,
to be here.
I love your commitment to this. And I went to my favorite coffee shop down the street because I have not unpacked my coffee maker, Dean. And I think you told me how to pronounce it. Katab. Is that how you pronounce this?
Kitab,
Katab.
a book. Yeah, that's book in Arabic. Kitab.
And you're not going to believe what happened too. Not only is it a coffee shop, but it's a bookstore. And I was looking at the shelves this morning waiting for my coffee, and they give away little cute small copies in either Spanish or English of the Quran.
Interesting. I would go with the English version, but it's a bookstore because it's called book in Arabic. So there you go.
Well,
That's
I
what
did
it's a.
pick up the English version because my Spanish is not that good. So I'm going to have questions for you, not on today's show, but in the
Uh-oh.
future. So, Dean, I
Sure.
need
I'm
to.
not an expert on the Quran, but go right ahead. It's
You have
America's.
what?
It's ending, folks. It's a fire sale. Buy what you can. Get out. I'm going to put a bid in for the statue. I think the Statue of Liberty is going to be on eBay, or Elon Musk will create his own eBay, and then he'll get a commission because this is ending. I think.
The ending of America? Is that where you are right now?
I think we're close. I think we're like, if this was like White Lotus this season is great in season 3. This is like season 12 of White Lotus. You're like, they can't find another resort. This can't be fun anymore. And you're guessing what's going ahead in advance. And this is
I
a
just need to
challenging
say
time.
no spoiler alerts. I'm like
I'm not
a
going to give it
week
a White
behind.
Lotus.
I'm a week
I
behind in
missed a
White
couple
Lotus.
episodes. Right. I'm a couple
Is
of
it good though?
but no, I missed the last 2 because I was traveling and stuff. So I'm going to
Okay.
catch up. But look, I think we're in a challenging time. I don't think we've ever been in a more challenging times in our adult lives. Surely not by a threat on our soil that seeks to remake America, consistent with the vision of how autocrats like Mussolini and Hitler remade their nations. I mean, that's the goal of Donald Trump, who lashed out against judges last night again, which I'm sure you've been talking about.
I have not talked about the
Okay.
the lashing out against judges. I was dealing with the top secret briefing of Elon Musk, the capitulation by Paul Weiss to Donald
That's
Trump, and
terrible.
also the fabulous AOC and Bernie event. So please tell us about the judges.
Well, Donald Trump last night again lashed out against Judge Boasberg by name and the entire judiciary. And we've seen this. This is not in a vacuum. Donald Trump using the playbook of after the 2020 election, where he continues to lie and demonize people, in the goal being to radicalize his base, no different than an Al-Qaeda recruiter, an ISIS recruiter. Donald Trump follows the playbook of those terrorists. And then ultimately, at first, it'll be just threats of violence, which we know that they're getting because Judge Chutkan and other judges got threats of violence in the past. And then it could be a storming of the Supreme Court. It could be it could be bombing of courthouses. And they'll defend it by saying, well, Tesla dealerships are getting bombed, so we can do this kind of stuff. And that's where we're heading. But Donald Trump's goal, I mean, everyone should understand that the last legal firewall to the abyss of Trump's tyranny is the judiciary, right? Because Congress can't do anything. Democrats are the minority. And while 90% of Democrats are fighters, there's enough that aren't that make it easier for Trump to achieve what he wants. But so the only check left is the judiciary, and they understand that. So they're trying to knock that third leg of the three branches out. If he does that, Trump is a dictator. There's nothing to stop him, zero, nothing. So people understand. Then we recede to a states' rights view where I really hope that Democratic governors in blue states, we withhold our money to the federal government. We strangle the federal government of any type of proceeds. I don't want to see violence. So I'd rather
I wanna cut you off for 1 second because you said something that kind of shook me to my core about bombing courthouses. As you said that, of course, you and I are old enough to remember when the Alfred P. Murrow courthouse in Oklahoma was bombed by the domestic terrorist Timothy McVeigh. You might not remember the exact year. It was 1995. We are now coming up, I think, on the 30th anniversary, which coincided a little bit with Waco and Hitler's birthday. That's next month. That's like April, 19th or 20th. Now, if this were a normal presidential administration, you would probably lock down courthouses, add extra security, maybe cancel, do more. There's already enough. There's a lot of course, of screening at these courthouses. I would imagine they want a Reichstag fire. This makes me very nervous, Dean, but it's good to think about. And I wonder if the government isn't going to protect us, I wouldn't, as a lawyer, go near a federal courthouse that particular few days.
I just watched a film called The Order. Was it The Order? It was about the bombing, the killing of the radio host. I think it was not Alan Freed. The radio host who was Jewish who they killed, and the whole plotting they were doing. And they relied on the Turner Diaries, and Timothy McVeigh relied on the Turner Diaries as well, it's sort of sci-fi porn.
Alan Berg.
Porn.
Alan Berg.
Alan Berg. Not Alan Freed. Alan Freed was a famous radio host, but Alan Berg. So it really is white supremacist porn, Turner Diaries. It's the dream. But when you hear what it's about, it's exactly what MAGA is about. And people have to understand, there's a tie between January 6th and the Turner Diaries. There's a tie between Timothy McVeigh and the Turner Diaries. There's a tie between domestic violence by the Proud Boys. It's a dream of a white ethno-national state where people like you and I are not here, or we're deported, we're in a prison. Donald Trump last night, to be specific, threatened people who vandalized Tesla dealerships. He's going to send them to the prison in El Salvador. You're talking about U.S. citizens. This is the president of the United States talking about to protect his top donor. He will deport you. And that's where we're heading. And I don't want to scare people. I tell people.
Dean, I need to say to people who may not know, this is the Turner Diaries 1978 novel. Amazon removed it from its site in 2021 because it was thought to incite, as you're saying, the right-wing assault on the Capitol.
100%. If you read what it's about, when you see what it's about, it's 100% tied to this. But look, we're going through a difficult time. Different books. I'm on my friend Ruth Ben-Ghiad, who I think you know, Ruth, and Timothy Snyder on tyranny. I think sometimes it upsets people to hear about where we might be going. We don't say it, and I don't say it. I say it because from them, they're telling us that when you learn about it in the beginning, you can prepare intellectually, legally, whatever way, because the goal of dictators and tyrants is to cause paralysis, like fear. That the fear is so great when something happens, you're so caught off guard, you get paralyzed, and then you choose to submit or be silent. If you know where it's going, we can make plans now. We build coalitions now. That's why we talk about it. Timothy Snyder talks about very famously in his book about, you mentioned the Reichstag fire, 1933 in Germany. Hitler comes to power. The parliament's burned down. Hitler uses that to grasp power, to consolidate power. And then their parliament, gives them the Enabling Act, which legalizes elevating them to dictatorship, right? But if people don't know this history, don't know where it's going, when you see something that looks like the Reichstag fire, we'll be able to say this is a false flag. We know what this is and stand strong, as opposed to people going, well, maybe it is terrorism. Or maybe, who are we to say it's not terrorist? You know, you were on my show last night, Jen, AG Pam Bondi, literally saying Judge Boasberg is helping terrorists, literally accusing a federal judge of helping terrorists because he was enforcing our laws to say you need due process to deport
Right.
people. This is where we are. It's like the weeks after 9/11, except we haven't had a 9/11 yet, which scares me, Jen, is going back to your original point. If they
Right.
get that Reichstag fire, if they get that national emergency, they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is as close as we come to really a martial law scenario nationwide, where they don't have the resources to do martial law nationwide. There's too many of us, right? That's not going to happen.
Right.
But in certain cities, closed out media outlets, this is where this is going. And if it sounds over the top, I can assure you, talk to people in Europe, talk to elected officials in Europe, human rights groups talking about America like a nation you can't recognize. And I just wrote an article for Substack. We went to sleep in a democratic republic. We woke up in a fascist state. That's where we're
Right.
heading. It's not a joke. It's not a fire
Yeah, and
alarm.
I'm
It's
so
not a
glad
drill.
we talk on it, my show, and I know normally I have better lighting and stuff like this, but my show is 100% truthful, accurate, and transparent, right? Or I'll correct myself, I'll fact check. We don't hide from the fact that we are living under a fascist state right now. Like, I tell people that I'm not trying to scare you, and we are focusing on what that looks like. And I think I was listening to a show the other day, Dina, you might appreciate this. Someone was talking about, look, this doesn't have to look like North Korea. And I think people are like, well, we're not goose stepping yet, so it must not be fascism. No, we look a
Right.
lot more like Hungary. We're starting to look a lot more like it doesn't, if you're thinking that that there's going to be a switch flipped overnight and you're going to suddenly be goose stepping and a lady's going to come on television in a pink coat, you actually lost the plot here. And
Mhm.
so can you describe to people how we can face what we're doing without being paralyzed, but what steps we can take? Like, you're a citizen like me, we're not public officials. What are you doing in your life, or what are you encouraging folks that listen to your program to do, not just I guess to prepare,
Mhm.
but also to change this regime, to turn it around?
Well, I think the first thing is building allies now. Don't wait to a time of great stress to build allies. And people listen to your show are already part of this community. People listen to my show or subscribe to our Substacks or whatever. So you're building community. Then last week on my show was Fight Back Week, where we had people from Indivisible, Move On, all different organizations. So people can say, okay, I want to get more involved in Indivisible or Move On or whatever organization that you like, grassroots organization, building that. Second is picking battles. For example, for the last two nights, I had on the candidates in Florida's special election, Josh Reel in Florida's 6th district and Gabe Alamont in Florida's 1st district. April 1st is a special election. Yes, these are red districts, but these two Democrats have Gabe has raised 7 million, Josh has raised 10 million. People are throwing
Wow,
money.
this
They
is for
want
a house
right. These are the
election.
House seats. And
Wow.
Josh is running on a personal level. Josh is running against Randy Fine, who is an anti-Muslim and really an anti-Christian bigot, at least in terms of Palestinian Christians. He's very anti-Palestinian Christian. So not allowing a bigot to get in would be great. But April 1st, the special elections. And if we can win one of those seats, it will send shockwaves. If we can close the gap, both those seats were won by Republicans by 30 points. One was Matt Gaetz' district. That was Mike Waltz's. If you can close us to 4 or 5, the corporate media, that's where they go crazy, start writing about what's going on in America. You're seeing the town halls. You see people going there organically. And Republicans are labeling them like, Mubarak labeled protesters in Egypt, saying they're paid outside agitators. No, they're not. They're Americans who are upset with what's going on. People doing peaceful Tesla protests. Do peaceful ones. Don't do violent ones.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yes.
Be peaceful. It undermines them and unnerves them. Go out in bigger numbers. Pick the Tesla, but be 100% peaceful. There's no place for political violence whatsoever. It's morally wrong and it's
I'm going
counterproductive.
to pause. I want you to say that again. You and I are just so fully on this. I don't think you should get the death penalty, but I also don't think we should be destroying private property. There's another way to talk about how bad Tesla is. Stand outside with your signs. So can you just explain to me why, as a
Look,
moral matter, but also strategically, why it's bad to burn shit down?
there is the idea of anything now that is violent or illegal feeds what they want. The Trump regime, I don't call administration, it's a regime, they're
Yes.
looking for excuses to charge Americans. If you think when they put Mahmoud Khalil in prison, who's got a green card, so he has full rights as an American, he's not a citizen. If you think it's going to end there, you're kidding yourself. They're looking for something. There might come a day, and I hope it doesn't happen, where people are going to engage in violence in big numbers to preserve our republic. I'm not advocating that. I don't know if I'd ever be a part of it. We're not there. Right now, it is morally wrong to do anything violent. It's morally wrong to do the vandalism, and it's strategically wrong. If there was a strategy that people could sell me on why you would need a little pockets of violence, I would listen. I think I would always be opposed to it. We're not at the point where they're rounding up Americans whole scale and putting us in camps. If we were, it's a different discussion. So don't commit violence. But look, it's isolated instance of violence against the people. Donald Trump upset about Tesla protests. The man who defended the January 6th terrorists, who were terrorists, as patriots, who pardoned them, who put the terrorists back on our streets. Okay, so this is how bad. And everything I'm saying, like the world sees Jen with clear eyes. They see the United States of America is not the United States of America it once was. And if you ever wonder what it was like to be in 1933 Germany and be anti-Nazi and go like, what's happening? How could this be happening in our country? Or in Mussolini's Italy, or in El Salvador, now he's got a leader who's way out there, or Viktor Orban, where you had organized opposition. I'll tell you, I think they're following the Orban playbook very well. The first thing Orban did was undermine the judiciary over there and get rid of the independence of it. They're trying to do that then. The next thing is the media. And already the FCC, under the Trump's guy, is going after NPR, under PBS. They're investigating both. We took out investigations that were put aside in the past. They've brought them back up to investigate NBC, CBS, and others. That's the playbook of Viktor Orban. It's not boots in the street. It's not violence. It used the apparatus of the government. And I read a shocking article, Jen, in the New York Times a few days ago, that they're now investigating Act Blue. And they're investigating another Democratic grassroots group, the Republicans in Congress and the DOJ. They want to end the ways that Democrats organize, raise money. This is what Viktor Orban did in Hungary. Again, no shots fired, not a lot of imprisonments of political prisoners. It's the idea of undermining the apparatus. So you have the charade of election. You can still win local elections, so you feel like it's still a democracy. So we'll still have a new Democratic governor in New York, let's say, and in the blue states. But we'll never win a national election again. We'll never control the legislature or the parliament in their case, or our Congress again in our lifetimes. That's their goal. Hitler wanted a 1,000-year Reich. Ben has talked about the exact same thing, a 1,000-year Reich here in America with the right and doing it legally without violence. They really are following a nonviolent playbook.
Yep. So in this, what I take from this is looking at the reality in front of us, recognizing what they're doing. And when you talk about coalition, I mean, we've talked about this now more than ever. Find your local group, whether it's a local indivisible group, whether it's in your church or a community organization, make those human connections. We're going to need each other. And I also want to think about and I also want to mention, I think there's a number of different rallies happening on Saturday, April 5th. Have you talked about this, Dean, on your show? Apparently, Indivisible.
We've talked about different ones. Indivisible's doing some, or what?
It's Indivisible and 50-50-10, and labor unions are all saying find your rally, your peaceful rally for Saturday, April 5th. Saturday, April 5th is coming up. Now, Dean, before we draw the show to a close, there's something I do at the end of every show, and it's called Crazy Town. And do you want to? Are you willing to take part?
Okay, I don't know what it is, so you're asking me.
Well, you'll soon see. You'll soon see. Okay, here we go. You don't have to.
It's a dance? Crazy. Crazy town.
Okay, Dean. I love that Dean went with it. Dean can improvise the crazy hands.
Wow.
So
you have to do
yes. So here, Crazy Town today, we're featuring a clip from an interview on Fox News, and we're going to play it because this is a sign of Crazy Town, and we'll talk about it on the other side and then play them out with Crazy Town. Here we go, Dean.
There's someone in one of these cars, they blow up. That can happen. That becomes murder, or worse, terrorism plus. And I know that on January 20th, the president signed into law, through an executive order, restoring the death penalty. Do you think this sort of thing, and I hate to think it, People leave their children and pets in cars. I mean, you don't know. This is deadly, dangerous stuff these liberal protesters are playing with.
Yes, it is, Harris. And what I can tell you is that President Trump condemns this violence, and he is determined to restore law and order in our country.
So the crazy part of this, we've already talked about we don't like violence. The crazy part is the attention that Tesla seems to be getting by the federal government. So can you tell me your view on the Secretary of Commerce? Now this is the White House press secretary, on Donald Trump shilling these Teslas, on apparently in the news, Elon Musk freaking out, telling his employees, don't sell our stock yet. And he's very upset about seeing burning Teslas. That was, by the way, I'm against burning them. I'm against when they blow up spontaneously because they're poorly made. I'm against when metal falls off of them. There was no one in those Teslas. There weren't pets or people that was on a lot. Again, not supporting it. But can you tell me why it's crazy that we have so much support behind one man on this planet by the most powerful country in the world?
I just have to say, as an aside, one of the craziest things was Harris Faulkner saying terrorism plus. Like, what's terrorism plus? Is that a package you can buy? Is that like, it's not just terrorism, but act now. You get terrorism plus. It's great. You can do a lot of it. You could add 3 friends and family to it. I'm like, what is terrorism plus? I think that's kind of intriguing by that.
Well, you can only add 3 different households. I think they only limited it.
Look, they're defending Donald Trump's top oligarch, his top donor who funded his campaign, who is now throwing money in Wisconsin to win the Supreme Court race there on April 1st, which, if you're in Wisconsin, we got elected the progressive justice there. This, Donald Trump said this is going to be the golden age. Folks, it's the Gilded Age. It's even more embarrassing and brazen than the Gilded Age. In the Gilded Age, 1880s, like 1910, 1920, the wealthy they owned judges and governors and stuff. They may have talked to each other about it, but they didn't brag about it in the media. The president at the time didn't have his top donor in the White House running cabinet meetings. Okay, I can assure you of that. And these people had a lot of money. We're talking about, J.P. Morgan, Harriman, Rockefeller. You had Pullman. You had so many of these oligarchs, Jay Gould, a lot of them railroad people. You didn't have this. This is even more embarrassing. So look, they are protecting their top donor. They'll use the full force of government. And understand on some level what's deeply concerning. Harris Faulkner talking about executing liberals. That's what she was saying. They will have to give death penalty for liberals because it's liberals. It's not, they know who it is. What we learned from Black Lives Matter, there were a lot of conservatives stirring up the violence on purpose. So a lot of people to my show have wondered, is this once again, are these MAGA people who have a history of violence doing this? We don't know yet.
Think they
We're going to find out.
And I think they want to extend it to if they see someone protesting. My concern is, if someone burns something down, it's property and there's no one in it. That's not the death penalty, right? But it is a crime and they should be prosecuted. My concern is they're going to start conflating, just like they're doing with people who are pro-Palestinian, or have a rose tattoo. They're going to conflate speech with some other act of violence and then try to charge you with that. So I think that is a great concern. Now, I want to say one last thing. We talk about the Gilded Age, and you said it's not the Golden Age. And I love the distinction. And we know what the time period of the Gilded Age, but gilded means to have a veneer, a surface of gold, that deep down, it's just a cover. And I think that's the trouble with oligarchy and all these people. They can try to build that the real power is with the people, not with the wealth. If we actually recognize that there's more of us than there are of them, there are people showing up, Dean, on May 1st, and they're going to occupy the National Mall peacefully until he apparently steps down. We'll see how that goes. But Dean,
Elon Musk stepped down? Elon Musk stepped down or Donald Trump stepped down? I'm not sure. April 1st, election in Wisconsin and 2 special elections in Florida. Here's an opportunity to send a message that the people going to town halls are already sending directly to Republicans in the House. Wisconsin and the 2 districts in Florida.
So vote in those states if you can. You're registered there. And Dean, how do people find you?
I'm not on Truth Social. I'm on Blue Sky at Dean Obeidallah. I'm on my Substack is the best place. The Dean's Report on Substack is completely free. It'll always be free. And you can find all my information there. My website, deanofradio.com. And of course, my show is 6 to 9 p.m. on SiriusXM. And if you don't subscribe, you can get free. Just Google SiriusXM free. You'll get a free subscription for like months. And you can just tune into everything. If you like it, stick around. But I hope people tune in.
Thank you so much for joining us. And have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thank you, my friend. Nice seeing you.